A discussion on how hedge funds work and the politics of it coming up tonight. It is a pleasure to have you aboard. Thanks very much for tuning in. And guess what? First pitch is until 8:07. So if you're locked in here, stay here. Stay here. And by the way, we've got a little Red Sox controversy that we're going to reflect on. But I must tell you that we've got a lot going on. Mike Riley is my guest. He's run for Congress, and he's a hedge fund manager and actually heads up an association for hedge fund managers here in Rhode Island. He's a colorful guy. He's got a lot of things to say generally, but he's seemingly had a very modest analysis of Gina Raimondo's situation as the state treasurer and the heat she's gotten on the hedge fund investments that the fund has made. He may also have a reflection on some of the stuff that we've got in the rundown tonight. So let us go to the rundown. This just in, cement on hold. I only just received this bit of information. I will tell you about it. And speaking of the treasurer, she now has moved Rhode Island out of the gun business. I'll tell you how. I have no idea what happened in the White House when they rolled out this Obamacare plan, but Kathleen Sebelius, the Secretary of State, seems to be trying to cover some, you know what. What else do we have on the rundown tonight? We do have a follow-up on the football fight. It's funny. And Sweet Caroline, it's becoming a conversation in Boston. It took some guts to start it. All right, let's dig in to the rundown here. Again, this cement on hold. Now, you know, if you've been watching the show on a regular basis, that I've been chronicling the Davy Lopes Pool saga. This is the picture of the Davy Lopes Pool in its current state. It's a disaster. But it can be fixed, and it would be less expensive probably to fix and operate it than it would be to cement it and to send a message to the kids that they don't matter. It's terrible urban policy. And if you've been watching each and every night for the last few nights, I won't burden you with the whole big speech on it. I'll save that when we have some kind of resolve. I'm told today on background, which means I can tell you what I know, but I can't tell you who told me, that the cementing of the pool and the bid and all of that that goes along with it that we've shown you on various nights here may be on hold. That even though Mayor Taveras has making a strong stand on, I'm the mayor, I'm going to do this, this is best for the whole city, rah, 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 it seems like the groundswell of argument to save that pool and perhaps a little heat from this kitchen has begun to have an effect. Details on that when I have them tomorrow night. All right, let us move on in our rundown this evening. This is a very perfunctory decision that was made today by the Investment Commission that works with Treasurer Gina Raimondo. She proposed, after months of review since Sandy Hook, a stock divestment from anything gun-related inside the pension portfolio. This is the headline in the Journal. Raimondo seeks to cut fund ties to gun distributor. Well, she did today. And unanimously, although I don't think all the members of the commission were there, they all just kind of in perfunctory style, again, not to use the word over and over, but it was just kind of deliberate and sure, okay, fine, no heated debate, nothing like that. She just decided that she was going to yank us out of the gun business. One company.
Gun violence is unacceptable. You know, I'm a mother. I have 2 kids in public school. I worry for my kids. Gun violence is out of control. It's unacceptable. It's hurting our children. It's hurting our communities. Rhode Island ought to be a leader in taking a stand to reduce gun violence, and that's what we did here today.
Okay, so we sort of jumped the gun there, but here's the point. We're taking Rhode Island out of that business because she's a mommy and she doesn't like it. She was talking to our own Steve Klampkin from our newsroom at WPRI Radio today, and that's where that audio comes from. The message here is that she's the boss, and how she says it goes, goes. Here's the problem with that. While she's the fiduciary agent, you know, the lead fiduciary person responsible for how we do in the investment world there, she's not the lead political figure of the state where she can just arbitrarily decide that in addition to finance, her philosophy matters. This commission just kind of rolls over as if, yeah, that's fine. You didn't see any General Assembly debate over whether or not Rhode Island ought to be out of the gun stock business. By the way, the company that we were selling stock from, $3.8 million, drop in the bucket compared to the rest of the portfolio, is a law-abiding, legal company, has no problems. And so, you know, what happens to the big chain stores that sell the guns that we have stock in? Oh, well, that's different. We're going to have a grander review of our philosophies on that. This is running for governor while you're the treasurer. And while I've been generally bullish on Gina Raimondo as treasurer, I'm really starting to get squeamish about her being the treasurer running for governor without even saying she's running for governor yet. Look, what other businesses are we going to get out of because the treasurer doesn't think it's appropriate because she's a mommy and she doesn't like it? Come on, man. Well, in this case, come on, treasurer. All right, let's move on. Washington Post, speaker, come on. I have no idea how this ever happened. And Fox reports on the covering that's going on when it comes to Obamacare's awful, awful liftoff.
We're not interested in Monday morning quarterbacking.
The woman accused of fumbling the rollout, Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, would not answer Fox's questions early today.
Have you taken your responsibility for the website failures?
Though there are new signs, Sebelius is at least being sidelined, if not benched, by the president. As Jeffrey Zients, a former CEO and management consultant who has served in various administration posts and is close to the president, is being brought into HHS temporarily to oversee the fixing of the website. The move came as the pressure built on Sebelius over a Washington Post report revealing just days before the launch, the administration tested the site to see if it could handle tens of thousands of customers, and it crashed, despite a simulation in which just a few hundred tried to log on at the same time, raising new questions about what the president knew about the problems and why the administration pushed forward anyway.
And I'm sure he knew in September that there's no way that this government-run website was going to work. You know, you put .gov at the end of any website, it's more expensive and it doesn't work.
Carney referred Fox's question about whether anyone at the White House was informed of the failed test to HHS. And he also ducked questions about the mounting cost to fix the website.
What's your new estimate?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. One, the budget for this is something that's housed over at HHS, and I would refer you to them.
Pressed by a Washington Post reporter about referring Fox's question to HHS, Carney then referred the Post question about HHS to HHS.
Will we get that information from HHS? Can you?
Well, I would address your question to HHS. I don't have that information. I don't, you know, and this is an operation being run by HHS.
This is the president's premier platform, period. It is a puzzle to me how this thing could have been lifted off with all of these problems, that all these IT people didn't cough back up to the White House through the channels, through HHS and beyond, that this thing wasn't going to launch well. I don't understand. Somebody in the White House must have just closed their eyes and said, kamikaze mission here. In the end, this kamikaze mission is probably going to cause the president the legacy he's looking for, because everybody who's smart about the IT stuff is saying this is not repairable, certainly not in time for the mandate that is effective in January, where everybody has got to get health insurance through these exchanges or not. All right, on a much lighter note, we were talking about this football fight last night, and I said, you can't do that. You can't hit a woman. You see this? Here's the New York Post headline today. She's a knockout. This is the woman, this is the Patriot fan at the Jet Patriot game at the Meadowlands this past weekend who got involved in the fight. She's chasing down this other knucklehead, the Jet fan. She and a couple of others, they're roughing each other up back and forth. Now, the Jet fan, who had a murder charge back when he was a teenager and got away with 3 years based on the nuances of that case. My goodness. He brought his mommy. He brought his mommy to the ball game, and I guess they got into it, and he was afraid for his mommy. So says his mommy.
Yes, a guy should not hit a girl or a woman. But if you're going to get a maniac girl, I mean, how much abuse are you supposed to take before you defend yourself?
All the abuse in the world that you possibly have to. I know that the gender thing has been kind of mixed up, and I know that women are tougher and they fight now and all that kind of thing, but you can't take a swing at a woman. If there's anything that is learned by this, fellas, you have to know. The answer is never. I know we've got some more on that, but let's move on to Sweet Caroline. This is the conversation that I was I'm a Yankee fan, you know that. So I'm not stepping in the Red Sox Nation dugout and starting this thing. But the Boston Globe reports, well, actually, it's not even, it's a column by a guy by the name of Jeff Edgers. He's a lifestyle columnist. Please banish Sweet Caroline from Fenway Park. These are just some of the notes that we took from the column itself. And I guess what happens is that the management of the Sox has been saying the reason why we've kept with Sweet Caroline all the way is because people just keep participating. They just keep singing it. And so, you know, this is what he writes. He writes, you know, participation, an act that also brought us the Salem witch trials, 2 terms of Nixon, and the Bridges of Madison County on the bestseller list. By the way, I love the Bridges of Madison County. Did you ever see the movie? Oh my, it's a heartbreaker. The bottom line here is for Sox fans, enjoy your Sweet Caroline. It is worn out its day. There's no doubt about that. But you know what? A World Series win, I guess it'll be here for a long, long time. When we come back, Mike Riley will join us and have some thoughts on some of the challenges surrounding the Treasurer's office. Stay with us. Mike Riley is a guy who should be at least somewhat familiar to all of you because he's spent a lot of his hard-earned money trying to create the public dialogue with his last congressional run and the like. You're not still blaming us media guys for the outcome of that thing, are you?
Well, I'm not going to take it to my grave, but I have some feelings about it. We'll not discuss it today.
You won't discuss it today. Well, that's not why we asked you to come up. But I didn't ask you to come up here to dig up some old wounds. And I know that you've had some other personal stories and all that kind of stuff, and I'm also not interested in that. If you want to do it, Google it and check out Mike. He's been a public figure. Frankly, amidst all of the color that you bring sometimes to public conversation, I know that you're a smart guy on the financial end, and I was surprised to actually see that you had kind of joined the Freedom and Prosperity Organization, for whom I have some serious respect because they're driving a lot of serious conversation in this state about hedge funds and what's going on with the Treasurer. So I want to talk to you about that.
Okay.
Your credibility, however, is substantial because you've made a couple of bucks in the investment world, haven't you?
Yes, I have, but I didn't get into the hedge
fund. You threw a lot of it
fund
into a campaign, too, didn't you?
I became a hedge fund manager in Rhode Island, so
Okay.
I never was involved in New York.
All right, but since you've been in Rhode Island and a hedge fund manager, you're actually heading up the Rhode Island Hedge Fund Association or something?
Yes, I formed and founded the Rhode Island Hedge Fund Association, which is tiny and basically does nothing right now. But this is a really important issue that we're discussing now, and it's important for us to talk about.
Are there people in your association that have joined
Just
you?
the board members. No, I don't have any members.
All right. Well, it's a fancy title anyway. It's impressive.
Well, it was meant to be something going forward, and now I think this is a really good jumping off point. Yes.
Sure. All right. So I think a lot of people are still confused as to what the hedge fund thing actually is as an instrument and a tool. Explain what it is.
Well, first of all, there's like 8,000 of them. So when anyone says the hedge funds do this or that, it's quite varied, just like mutual funds. But it's a pool of assets managed by an accredited person for accredited investors. And accredited investors are private investors who have at least $1 million or $1.5 million in net worth separate from their homes. And so these are supposedly people that can handle the risk of a hedge fund. Now, having said that, I completely disagree with some of the characterizations that hedge funds are riskier than X, Y, or Z. For example, we at my hedge fund believe that stocks are much riskier than our hedge fund, for example.
Because
stocks you can lose all your money in stocks, and I think we've seen that if you've had WorldCom or Enron or anything else. If in 2008 the entire market as a whole dropped 30%. A properly hedged fund, using the term hedge fund, which by the way came out in the 1970s, hedge funds are usually hedging against their long investments with short investments.
Give me an example of what you buy when you buy a hedge fund.
Well, like I said, there's 8,000 of them. So you make an agreement with the investment advisor, in this case it would be me, that, and I will give you a description, a private placement memorandum, which will describe the fee structure and what our goals and investment objectives are. If you agree to that, you give me the discretion to invest in the objectives that I've given you. So, and hedge funds fee structure tends to be almost exactly like private equity fee structure or venture capital fee structure.
But the concept of the hedge, I mean, when you hedge your bets, you are mitigating your pain, your damage.
Yes.
So you're moving against the flow of the market, per se.
I'll give you a very simple hedge.
Yeah.
Let's say there's a thing called overwriting, a buy right. Since listed options came about in 1973, there were options listed on many of the major corporations in America. Let's take the example of IBM. If I buy shares in IBM, and that's all I have as my position in my retirement portfolio, if IBM goes up, I win. 100% of my performance is IBM.
Right.
If I'm concerned about IBM going up and I want some protection or a hedge, I can sell calls against it or buy puts against this. And I will now not perform 100% of the upside with IBM, but I will also have achieved some protection or downside protection with the sale of the call or the purchase of the put. Okay. This is now a hedged portfolio. It gets much more complicated. Modern portfolio investment theory, when you look at it, what they try to do is take all risky assets and they say some of them aren't correlated. You might expect gold to go up when stocks are down, or vice versa. So those non-correlated assets, even though they're both risky, when added together are actually a less risky portfolio. Gotcha. And that's the concept when you have a non-correlated investment.
All right, so how does this all work in the politics of the Treasurer's office? Mike's put out some opinions on this, and he's not throwing daggers from the Republican side at all, but I do want to get a little bit of analysis from him as to what soup the Treasurer may or may not be in with her investment decisions. Stay with us. Former congressional candidate Mike Riley is with us. He is a hedge fund manager in Rhode Island now, earned a lot of money in the markets before in different types of investment work prior to coming to Rhode Island years ago. You've got some pretty strong feelings about some of the discourse. First of all, you have a disclaimer you want to offer. Investment guys generally are wary of those kinds of things.
Yeah, I manage a hedge fund and I'm a registered investment advisor in the state of Rhode Island. Okay. And I just want to make sure that anything I say now does not reflect the opinion of my partner or any of the investors in my fund.
Good, covered. Guys like this Ted Siddell from Forbes magazine, Blog World, and he's a lawyer and a former investigator, have really come out hard. He just took a $20,000 payment from labor here in Rhode Island to really give Treasurer Raimondo a pretty hard time. There's also a story in the Rolling Stone that did the same. What are you thinking about what has been levied against the Treasurer and her hedge fund decisions?
Yeah, it's all kind of, you know, I saw Gina's response, which was kind of a smokescreen type response.
Yeah. She says they're lying, or he's lying, Seidel is lying. I'm saying all you got to do is lay out the lies and fix it. She's been a little tentative in that, but...
Well, first of all, I think that Ted doesn't know a lot about finance. I can tell that from the writings. I can see that from the earlier discussions on the blog that there's some gaps in his knowledge. They're either there or that he's purposely obtuse. So
what's been misleading?
Well, I think the idea of putting up the boilerplate on the risk disclosures on a hedge fund document to prove that hedge funds are risky, because hedge funds have to say they're risky on their documents, is a red herring. Hedge funds are not necessarily risky, as I pointed out to you. If I had a hedge fund that only invested in treasury bills, how is that riskier than the stock market? Mm-hmm. So the blanket statements, and plus the nature of the discourse, the dialogue, if you read that, these are not scholarly reports. These are actually barbed attacks. Right. And so I object to that as well. On the other hand, Ted Seidel makes some very good points. And one of the major points that he makes is, and I think Gina's not done the right thing in terms of her investment in her own firm and her continued profit participation. If I had been elected treasurer, even though this was a Frank Caprio decision to invest in Point Judith Capital.
Her former company.
Yes.
Well, her company that she now has a blind trust relationship with.
Right, and they issue a series of investments. So this is Point Judith Capital 2, which is the big one. So she makes an investment in there, and she continues to collect fees on it. I think I would have tried to divest myself rather than to get an ethics commission ruling saying that if I put it into a blind trust, then I'm okay. If I were running for treasurer, which I'm not and won't, I would really try to distance myself a lot more from that. I would not have maintained a relationship.
All right, well, that's an important point to discuss. But in general, in less than a minute's time, if you can, are you evaluating the hedge fund investments in our state pension fund as reasonable?
Yes, and I think I'm the only one that's actually done it. In a 100-page report, plus-page report that Seidel listed, he had an opportunity, if he could prove that the fund was more risky, which he says outright within the first paragraphs, it costs more money and it's riskier. He could prove it in the next 100 pages, but he doesn't. He doesn't take any financial whack at it, any direct analysis to prove that it's riskier. In my opinion, it is much less risky and will underperform up stock markets and outperform down stock markets, which was the idea. We don't want the down 30% when that comes in 2008.
Now that you've had a little mix-up in politics and you kind of get it, what's your short prediction as to whether this will stick to Gina Raimondo as a problem in the campaign for governor if she runs?
Well, she's obviously running, and I think it will stick and it will be an issue. But for me, it's an opportunity to educate about what hedge funds are all about, and they definitely belong as part of an investment in any pension fund program.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
for your expertise, and we'll tap it as we go along. Your state of mind when we come back. Stay with us. Time for your state of mind. Let's see who's posting what this evening on what subject matter. This one, if that's the choice for governor, I'm glad I jumped off the sinking ship and swam across the border. That is reportedly, I'm told, a reaction to Gina Raimondo's candidacy for governor. Hey, listen, you know what? She's got a lot of skills, but she's going to have to figure out a way to directly respond to accusations and to be a little less political as the treasurer. You can feed back to me at your state of mind by dialing 228-1886. Leave the voicemail, seriously, and we will play it. Of course, you can email me at stateofmind@myRITV.com or tweet at us or post this on Facebook. It's Dan Yorke Show, Y-O-R-K-E. Got to run. That's our state of mind for this evening. We'll see you tomorrow night. We'll tackle the Coventry fiscal crisis and a whole lot more. Go Sox! First pitch in a bit. See ya.